Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming for the celebration of this long-awaited and exciting project. As you know, this has been a collaborative effort that involved a lot of vision, work effort of so many. The rubber hit the road on this project when we successfully secured over $1 million in grant funding through the California River Parkways program administered by the California Natural Resource Agency. I'd now like to invite the program manager, Polly Escovedo, to tell us more about how that is and how the program works and how we can support her in the future.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much on behalf of Secretary Laird for letting us join the party today and extending our congratulations. When we first got the application, I'm going to give a confession and tell you that we didn't know where Oakley was, some of us. And depending on who you asked, we got a lot of different opinions as to where Oakley was. I think that I'm going to share my husband's response, which was my favorite, now that I know where you are and where you're not. And he said, Polly, of course you know where Oakley is. He says, that's the gateway to Yosemite. So, of course, we know that's not true. And that was Oakdale. But we know where you are now, and we're so proud of you, and I'm going to tell you why. We spend most of our time preaching about collaboration and cooperation. And we should bottle yours. We really should. You've mentioned the partners here, and when you can get the flood control districts and the park districts and all of these folks working together, this is what you can do. And I think Mitch has probably been to a couple of our workshops. I'm not sure. I know he's met with us several times. And I had to laugh a little bit because I went back to the notes to see why was this project competitive? What made you stand out? And the Deputy Assistant Secretary who went on the site visit, you know, she said, well, the Boy Scout leader, I think it was here. She says, that didn't hurt. It was a great way of leveraging homeowner-funded parks with bond funds. And then she said they had a top-notch restoration team. And I had to laugh. Drew's not here for me to make fun of him. But as soon as I saw the sign, Restoration Design Group, of course you knew that they had to be part of this project. And again, the partnerships that have been formed have been amazing. So we want to congratulate you. You've got a great project here. We always want to take a moment and thank the voters, and that was a nice lead-in there. You know, what does it look like for the future? Our bond funds are drying up. This was awarded the last round of Proposition 50. We had a couple of rounds under Proposition 84, but we're so appreciative to the California voters, because we know it's really only through your support that projects like this can go forward. Because remember, we're building a sustainable California, and not just for us sitting here today, not this generation, but for all the generations to come. So again, really a job well done. You should give yourselves a hand of applause.
From the Friends of Marsh Creek Watershed, Executive Director Diane Burgess.
I am standing up. Okay. A little over 5 years ago, I was interviewing for a job, and I was in San Francisco, and I was meeting with Sarah Puckett. She showed me a nice big stack of paper that she'd been working on, and it was due that day in Sacramento for a grant for this park, and here we are. So I have kind of a personal connection to this, because this was a beginning of something that's very special to me. As a resident of Oakley, when I first moved here, I didn't know this was a creek. And I think there's a lot of people in our community that will start to be able to transition their view of what this is, from a ditch, which is what people have called it, or a canal, to a creek. There's communities throughout the Bay Area that are actually trying to recapture that naturalized creek. And we have an opportunity right now to do that, to enhance a natural feature that goes through our community which improves the value of our experience living here. It improves the value of our homes. And the one thing that Friends of Marsh Creek is really interested in is that's habitat restoration, and that's clean water. And so what you're seeing here is a project that brought together people that want to protect us from floods, and people that want to help us with our trails, and people that want to, help us with our natural resources, and people that need to run a city, and people that want to push for something to happen. And all these people came together, and it's very exciting because I think this is a project that is an example for a bigger picture. We have a lot of resources that we need to protect, and it takes people caring and putting their voice out. It takes agencies that have one goal and working together to help make that happen. Friends of Marsh Creek has gotten a lot of recognition for the work they do. The Friends of Marsh Creek are the over 1,200 volunteers that come out and plant a plant or pick up some trash or sit at a table and teach you about clean water. Friends of Marsh Creek is our board of directors that come together on a way too regular basis to help try to make things happen. It is a collective effort, and I encourage you to get involved if you haven't already gotten involved in these types of projects, because this happened in a fast way because we all shared a common goal. So I would like to thank our funders. I'd like to thank all of our partners. There's one person that I'd really like to recognize, and that's Sarah Puckett. She's the kind of lady that works behind the scenes without wanting the attention. She celebrates every victory and doesn't really care if anybody recognizes her, but she works often at midnight with 3 little babies. She is a dedicated person, and really we couldn't have probably gotten this together without you. So I'd like to really recognize you. Also, we didn't mention the HCP who got involved towards the end and helped get all of the knots out, so we appreciate your work. Rich Wackling, who started out with the Natural Heritage Institute and then came over to the RD Restoration Design Group. He's committed. I get emails from him. Where do you live, Rich? Berkeley. He lives in Berkeley, but one weekend I'll get pictures of Marsh Creek. He comes out here because he's still engaged. So these are people that live outside of the area but are committed. I just want to recognize everybody, and I thank you for your support.
Now I'd like to introduce Sarah Puckett from American Rivers.
My name is Sarah Puckett with the Natural Heritage Institute. NHI is a nonprofit organization. We're based in San Francisco. We develop creative strategies to restore creeks and wetlands in places where people live, work, and play. We've been working in the Marsh Creek watershed since 1998, and in the Delta since 1989 when we were first founded. We're one of the founding members of Friends of Marsh Creek. We helped initiate the salmon walks that are led along Marsh Creek. We also helped write the grant for the $1 million Creekside Park Restoration Project. So NHI's vision for Lower Marsh Creek watershed is to partner with local communities to create a shaded park-like corridor along Marsh Creek for fish and wildlife, water quality, people, and then floodwaters too. So as you all know, Lower Marsh Creek Channel is very straight, doesn't have a lot of trees. Next slide. The Upper Marsh Creek watershed is like the opposite, lush and full of trees and nice trails for people to walk along. The slide on the left here shows all the development that has happened in Oakley and Brentwood over the last several decades. And even though there has been a lot of development, the slide on the right, these green areas show all the areas that have not yet been developed along Marsh Creek. So even though there has been a lot of development, there's still so many opportunities to restore Marsh Creek in Brentwood and Oakley. Next slide, please. So specifically in Oakley, we looked at individual parcels that haven't yet been developed and see three major areas. The first is on existing public land, which are noted in green, the Iron House parcel, Creekside Park, and then this county parcel down in the south. On private land that's scheduled to be developed, and also just general landscaping and planting native plants along Marsh Creek and the trail. So how do we improve the trail? I'll tell you when to click and we'll So the trapezoidal flood control channel that Marsh Creek is, and when we first started working with the Friends of Marsh Creek, some people came to the group and said, I planted some trees in the channel. Why can't you just plant some trees in the channel? And the next slide. So just really the education of that you can't plant trees in the channel and still maintain flood capacity. So next click, no trees. Next click. So a model that we've really been talking about and worked with, and something that flood control supports is to excavate the channel to provide room for trees. Next click. So you can plant trees in the channel. Next click. And then the flood flow won't flow over the banks and flood homes. Next slide. So people have talked tonight, there's been a theme about creating room. The slide on the top shows that when you have houses that are too close to the creek, you can't create room for trees. But in areas that haven't yet been developed, if you push the houses and development back, you can excavate the channel and create room for lush riparian habitat and recreation and room for fish and wildlife. So in the city of Oakley, there's both constraints and opportunities. The development on the left was built right up to the creek. The houses face away from the creek. There's no access to the trail. Then right across the creek is the Creekside Park area where there's a lot of great opportunities to restore riparian habitat. So with Creekside Park, I think really embodies the partnerships that we're all really talking about tonight, working together with the city of Oakley and flood control and coming together to create a really exciting, successful, well-funded project to both, and this project was exciting because it incorporated the city's existing park and still was able to build a design around and plant trees on Marsh Creek, and also work with flood control to plant trees and still create room for floodwaters. So just one more thing about Creekside Park. NHI and the Friends of Marsh Creek want to do everything we can to work together with the city of Oakley to make this project a reality. We had a really great time working with the city of Oakley on this project. The State Resources Agency was really impressed with the partnerships and the city's vision for this park, and we want to help move forward and make this a real showcase for the entire Marsh Creek watershed. So what can NHI do to help? We want to partner with Oakley to develop strategies to enlarge the creek channel to plant trees in Marsh Creek and along Marsh Creek, write more grant proposals to fund these creek improvement projects, and also work together to coordinate what we've been throwing around as called the Marsh Creek Watershed Council, quarterly meetings where all the agencies and organizations can come together in a smaller group, kind of a working group, and talk about what the city of Oakley's priorities are for the creek, and then find out when the grant proposals are due, and write those grant proposals in order to make that happen. So thank you so much. The next speaker is Pat Satella from the Friends of Marsh Creek.
And not here today, but I think still needs to be acknowledged as the Environmental Protection Agency and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation for their support in funding a number of projects up and down the river, the creek. Starting as a trickle on that mountain right behind us, on the east side of that mountain, nearly 30 miles Marsh Creek meanders for nearly 30 miles, passing through beautiful tracts of farmland and the communities of Brentwood and Oakley before entering into the San Joaquin River at Big Break. Along the way, Briones Creek, Dry Creek, Sand Creek, Deer Creek, Curry Creek, and Rand Valley Creek serve as tributaries. And the lower stretch of the creek consists of a treeless, trapezoid, flood control channel that is almost inaccessible. One of the city's long-standing visions that the City Council continues to support today is the facilitation of green areas that would provide ample recreation opportunities. In 2007, the land where we stand today was but an idle 9 acres of sand and weed. Shortly after preparing plans for Phase 1 of Creekside Park, we were approached by the National Heritage Institute and the Friends of the Marsh Creek with the idea of restoring the adjacent creek shoreline to its more natural state and creating a new connection to the park. Upon completion of conceptual drawings and designs, a grant application was submitted to the California River Parkways Grant Program, which awards funds for acquisition, restoration, protection, and development of river parkways. Meanwhile, we marched forward, ensuring that each phase of the park's design and development accommodated the creek restoration while we hopefully were waiting for the necessary grant funding. The grant application was successful and resulted in the city being awarded $1,667,550 to design and construct this project. The next mission entailed working with many of you here today in the audience. After the plan, specification, estimates were prepared, and before work could begin, the endeavor required approvals of the County Flood Control, East Contra Costa Habitat Conservation Plan, East Bay Regional Park District, Regional Water Quality Board, Department of Fish and Game, and the Army Corps of Engineers. The restored segment of Marsh, the restored segment of Marsh Creek you see behind you converted an inaccessible man-created channel to the creek's natural state. At the time, making it an amenity to the adjacent Creekside Park, regional trail system, and our community. This is the only section along the miles of the creek where people are physically able and legally allowed to interact with the creek. The restored 3.5 acres, now freshly planted, will one day flourish with riparian vegetation, improve wildlife habitat, and create a passive recreational opportunities with interpretive elements. Not to mention become a beautiful environment, attracting young adventurers willing to explore the area looking for salmon, other wildlife, and the plants that will grow within the restoration area. Some of the project's features include the trail connection off Laurel Avenue and the park's water feature that descends into the floodplain, the new pedestrian bridge connecting Creekside Park to the East Bay Regional Park System. And today, after a collaborative, successful effort of so many people, I'm proud to share in the celebration in the ribbon cutting of the Marsh Creek Restoration Project.